Hey guys, this is Alex, and welcome to the Two Dudes, Brews, and Reviews podcast. Today, we're talking about the 2003 album Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie. This is the first time that Austin and I have really disagreed on a topic, so it leads to us having one of my favorite conversations yet. Also, this was recorded in December, so we get into the stress of Christmas and give our impressions of Spider-Man: No Way Home. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the podcast and maybe even tell your friends about us. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the show.
Surprise, surprise, motherfucker, we're live. What's happening, man?
Merry fucking Christmas, dude.
Merry Christmas.
I don't know about you, but I've been stressing about Christmas really fucking hard.
I'm always stressed about Christmas, though. We just have a lot of places to be in little time. It's hard to be everywhere at once. And as I've gotten older, it's become even more complicated.
Yeah, that's totally true. Do you stress about people opening your gifts? Like liking them or their reactions to it?
No, not really. I stress about people looking at me when I open my gifts. Christmas is really weird to me. This is like kind of a pessimistic thing, but at a certain point, your gift giving becomes trading money.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to get everyone something that you really want to get them. For example, I got you a couple bottles of whiskey.
And I'm eternally grateful.
2 halfway decent bottles. I got you they're both rye, but I got Wild Turkey 101 because I know you like that. And then I got you Woodford Reserve rye. We both never had that. And I'm like, well, he'll have it. I'll drink it a little bit when I'm over here. Not a big deal. Yeah, Christmas is weird. I'm not a gift receiver. I'll give people gifts. My love language is time. I like spending time with people. That's my thing. You don't have to get me a gift, but I know you did give me a gift. But let me just say, spending time with my friends and family is more important to me than, material things.
I feel like you just gave the most, holy meaning of Christmas right there. It's not about giving and receiving. Spending time.
Time's the only thing you can't buy, bro.
Hey, here's something exciting.
Hey.
My bad. Did I interrupt you?
No. I was like, we just hit a dead spot in the air of conversation. You're like, hey.
Me and you went and saw the new Spider-Man movie. And I feel like that's kind of a big cultural event in a way. Can't really give any spoilers away, even though this episode won't be out till long after everybody's seen it. But,
you don't want to give any spoilers out?
Nah, fuck it.
It's not a big deal. It'll be long.
Hey, if you have not seen Spider-Man: No Way Home,
skip 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah, just turn it off.
Go away. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's widely known that it's a pretty great movie by everyone that's seen it. I think everybody's pretty excited for it.
I think it's the best out of the Tom Holland movies that we've gotten so far. And I enjoy all 3 of them.
I had a kind of a negative watching experience, and I kind of had mentioned that to you. My movie theater was really obnoxious. I actually talked to Cameron at work about this too, and we went to the same theater, and he said the same thing. And I was like, okay, well, it must just be that area. He had a very negative experience too. He said people were talking, people were on their phones, and I'm like, same here. Obviously, the movie, we all know the secret's out, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in it, and there's a returning cast of past villains like Doc Ock and Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, and other characters return and stuff. Took away from my experience a little bit. They were just talking long after, and it was really hard to zone in, and it kind of took me out of the zone. But I loved it. I just think I kind of had a bad vibe coming out of the theater, and I was super hateful about it.
You told me that you thought the movie might age poorly, and I think I know what you mean, but I kind of want you to explain it. Is it because it's a nostalgia fest?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it wasn't done well. I think the second one's better than this one. Plot-wise, I think it's the better.
It's more focused.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you, when the other Spider-Mans came on screen, it was fun, but there was something that really aggravated me, and it was with the special effects. And I don't know why they chose to do this, because if I was the director, I would make sure that this didn't happen.
What was that?
But when they're pulling them through the portal, when Ned opens the portal and stuff and brings them in, they should have closed them up. And I know that plays a factor later on, because Ned doesn't know how to close the portals and stuff, and that plays into the action and the whole stress towards the end of the film and stuff. But it really cheapened the effect of having them there, because they're backlit from the ring, lighting them up in the back. And it's something that just really bothered me. And I'm not saying like it doesn't take away from the scene. It's still really fun and you know, comedic and all that stuff. But a part of me was getting frustrated with it because Into the Spider-Verse plays on that same comedy of having a bunch of Spider-Mans in the same room. Mm-hmm. That movie is set up for that. That movie like creates the setting to have that play. It's not as serious. I mean, although there's like serious parts of that film and stuff, but just the way the movie is structured, it's animated, it's super charismatic and caricature of all these different characters. Like it's almost like you're getting like little vignettes of all these characters and stuff, and that's super fun. But I don't know if it'll age as well as that first viewing's fun. I'm not going to take away from that. Like, it was super fun. But I think its direction will get lost over time. And I think it will become more like Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire trilogy.
No.
You don't think so? And I'm not to that degree. Not to that degree. But do you understand?
It's like just too much going on at the same time. 5 villains, 3 Spider-Mans, side plots, Doctor Strange.
Whew. I just took a sip of that Christmas ale. Holy shit.
Today we're drinking Great Lakes Christmas Ale. Personal favorite of mine. It's a beer that changes its recipe every year.
That's strange. It does taste like Christmas. That's
I think
strange.
I told you once that it was like a wintry Oktoberfest. I don't know if that'll take away from your
very minty.
Enjoyment of it.
Very herbal.
More so than what I remember it being. It used to be a lot deeper. I feel like the spices kind of pop a little more in this one.
It tastes like if you put a Honey Halls cough drop, herbal tea, and Jaeger. Very herbal. It reminds me of Jaeger, just a lot lighter.
The bottle describes it as fresh honey, cinnamon, and ginger flavors.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. A lot of cherry, too. I'm getting a little bit of like, smell the glass.
I don't remember that flavor being in there before. Do you think you like it, or is it kind of an situation?
It's kind of an but like it tastes different every time I'm picking it up. It almost tastes a little bit root beery.
I can see that.
A lot of little sarsaparilla. It's definitely the most fragrant beer we've had in a long time. You have me watching. You have me listening to an album that I knew nothing about. Almost know nothing about this band. This album's 18 years old.
We're doing Death Cab for Cutie's Transatlanticism from 2003.
And this is your recommendation, and I guess I just want to understand the history of the album with you. I know you mentioned a little bit about it at the end of the last podcast, but this was at a
formative years type shit.
How old were you when this came out?
When it came out, I was like 9 or 10 probably. I didn't start listening to this group until about 2010, so I was like 16 at the time, which I think really that age is kind of the age to be into this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking away from anyone that still enjoys this, because I still enjoy it, but it comes a lot from a nostalgic place. I always looked at it as like your mileage will vary depending on where you are in your life when you hear it. If
I'm
you're
past this.
Yeah, you're past the window of opportunity, kind of. Mm-hmm. And when I recommended it, I knew that was the case. Usually over the 2 weeks when we're not recording, we kind of will trade little bits of information about the thing that we're talking about. And this time, it was like radio silence. And I sort of knew about a week in. I'm like, I don't think Austin's going to like this very much. And I'm not offended by that. You know, I don't care if you hate or love something whenever I recommend it. I just I just want to dig in deep.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on your nostalgia on this one, I'm sure.
That's perfectly fine.
And we'll, you know, the tides have changed.
It's a better record if you're heartbroken, single, something like that.
It reminds me when I figured out, when I was going through those formative years, I don't remember a lot of the music I used to listen to. I mean, I used to listen to like a lot of My Chemical Romance and stuff, obviously. And when I discovered like Bon Iver for the first time, I kind of imagine that's like the same feeling. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like this ambient melancholy. This is more of like a pop rock. I don't even know if it's pop rock. When I listened to the album, there are like highlights for me, but the things that don't pop, I was really aggravated and frustrated with.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. But this would have been really good for me like my sophomore year of high school.
That's where I was when I first bought the CD.
I had been like cheated on by my girlfriend. Like going to the school dances and stuff was like the worst thing in the world. It was awful. Like I couldn't stand it. I had like lost my friend group. My friend group had changed. I was like riddled with anxiety and depression. Terrible like home life. It was not a fun time. This album would have fucking hit right there.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I guess I'm frustrated with it because like there's a grown ass man singing this music.
He was 27 when they recorded this.
You know, maybe like an altered state of consciousness would have helped me through this listen a little bit to maybe become, you know, a little bit more open to it. But I mean, I listened to this thing straight edge the whole time. I mean, I listened to it at work. I listened to it today. I listened to it last night. I mean, there are highlights, but it's because they're dressed up in a way that makes me enjoy them. And let's just go ahead. We can go track by track. I imagine this is only an 11 track album.
Yeah.
It won't take long. And we'll have more to say about certain tracks than others.
I might get into some contextual stuff
about
the band real quick.
I'm completely unfamiliar with them, so be my guest.
This was like their big break. Death Cab had been around since the 90s.
Like 97?
Something like that, yeah. I think their debut, it started as a solo project. Ben Gibbard, the singer, it was just him. Their first little album is called Songs You Can Play with Chords, or You Can Play These Songs with Chords. And it was just like straight one guy, acoustic. And like their work before this record was more on the lo-fi indie. Like it wasn't really anything like this. This record is more like a emotive piano rock, but their stuff before this was kind of like in the Modest Mouse Built to Spill era of influence. And honestly, if you went back, that's the stuff that you might be more into. And then their stuff after Transatlanticism, you have the song I Will Follow You Into the Dark. Everybody knows that song.
They kind of turn into like a late 2000s. I heard a few songs from the record after this, I believe.
Plans?
The one after that one, like 2007.
Narrow Stairs.
Turns into like more like rhythmic, bassy, poppier. And like, so I mean, they'll change. I understand that they're going to change over time and stuff. And yes, I Will Follow You Into the Dark. I've heard that.
This style was kind of a norm at the time.
When this came out?
Like it was like the Coldplay, the Death Cab. Yeah, like Copeland kind of sounded like...
Oh, yeah.
They sounded a lot like Plans era Death Cab around this time. This isn't one of my favorite bands, so we can critique it all we want, even though this is like a favorite record of mine. They kind of turned really sappy and generic in their later years.
Okay.
I've not been a fan of their last few records, but we can get into it, you know?
The album art is like almost like a crow?
Entangled in red yarn.
Yeah. And I thought going into this, it would be more folksy. And I don't know why that is. Or at least I would get bits and pieces of it littered throughout, but it became kind of clear to me that
It's really only the last track that even comes close to that.
I just think it's like rock, but if like you put rock on like a downer.
Indie emo rock, pretty much, with some pop elements in there. This is kind of like your starter indie band. Like, this is your gateway into, like, weirder stuff.
Yeah.
They're very palatable and, like, easygoing. Nothing's going to alienate you.
Maybe that's why I had a problem with it. And this is, like, one of my biggest descriptors while I was, doing my more notation analysis. Very vanilla. Very cut and dry. Not a lot of experimentation here. Maybe that's why I was so frustrated, because this is a formative year record. Like, this is your gateway drug into different types of music that you're not like used to like hearing mainstream.
That's how it was for me.
Okay.
I was just now getting into like Modest Mouse around this time.
That makes a lot more sense to me why you would even like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I'm like, does Getter like love this album but it makes sense that you would like it when you were younger.
And I'm not going to say that nostalgia is the only thing that makes me like it. I think the songwriting is really good I think it's good on most of the songs. And we can battle it out if you want to. This will be fun.
All right. The new year. So when this song opens up, I was like, oh, this is different than what I thought I was going to get. It's like a less angsty opening of like Siamese Dream.
It sounds like an opening track.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how do I put this? It's like a stadium rock song on downers.
Yes. And you know why every song sounds like a downer?
Why?
The vocals.
Yes.
The vocal delivery was my biggest gripe.
I knew it would be.
I don't know if this is like a common theme throughout their other albums, but very frustrated with the vocal range. It is so flat.
It's always in the same kind of area, note-wise. He can't go too high, he can't go too low.
But man, it was like a brighter opening to like a fairly dark album. I mean, the album gets pretty melancholic, or at least slightly optimistic melancholy. There's clean guitar and like a layered, heavy distortion, and like that's littered throughout the record. I mean, which I could appreciate, don't get me wrong. And like the drumming's pretty okay by my standards. I'm not like some fucking Carter Buford over here. Like,
I like the drumming on this track. It's not crazy. And there's not much to say about the drumming on other tracks. Sometimes it comes close to like drum machine level where like they're playing it as plain as possible. Not many fills.
The song, though, we should talk about thematically. It's called The New Year. To me, it just sounded like he basically says, like, fuck New Year's resolutions. Or, like, he's kind of become jaded about the whole idea of the new year. Honestly, I'm at that point in life where I'm discovering that New Year's Eve and, like, New Year's Eve party is, like, It's not as exciting when you were younger. Like, when you're younger, it's like, oh, it's the fucking new year, dude. I've been alive for fucking 8 years now. Now I'm going to be alive for 9.
Yeah, metaphorically, the new year is always supposed to represent new beginnings. But then, yeah, the narrator of this song is realizing that's not exactly the case. Quite literally saying, like, this is the new year, and I don't feel any different. I don't have a resolution. I think it's on the back half of the song where the lyrics take a more interesting route. Somehow it turns into being pointed towards like a lover of some sort, where he's saying like, I wish the world was flat like the old days. That way I could travel just by folding a map.
Yeah.
There'd be no more, he like lists some like modes of
bullet
transportation.
train.
Yeah. There'd be no distance that can hold us back. Kind of sets up the theme of the record. Supposedly, this is supposed to be like a concept album. I don't know if I agree with that. It doesn't have like set up characters or anything. I would think more like the record it's focused on a theme, but it's not a concept, really.
No, I didn't get concept at all.
Yeah.
I mostly got long distance, melancholy, and like, I got like a lot of imagery later in the record and stuff, but to me, it just seemed more like slight comments on like societal norms, especially like with the New Year and stuff.
Ben Gibbard is really good, like lyrically, like, and you may not agree with this. He's a really quirky lyricist. He'll take really mundane things, try to apply meaning to them. This is the same guy that's written songs about like a mattress and, like, and made it about like two people.
Yeah.
You know, he brings in some interesting imagery about like glasses clinking and like 30 dialogues bleeding into one at this party. Like, I think just the way I like the way he puts words together.
I'll agree with you there. You can come at from that perspective. To me, at times, and it's also throughout, it almost feels like a really long poem that doesn't like. Maybe, and it's honestly the vocal delivery, because I would like this a lot more if there was like variation. He like never. I mean, he does it on some songs, but it's so small. And it's like, oh, I got it right there. Like, I finally got a little bit of a different flavor.
I agree with you, actually. I love him as a vocalist, but I could see, like, it's a very love it or hate it type situation. He sounds like a prep school kind of guy. Like, he wears turtleneck sweaters and large frame glasses. He's very articulate in the way he pronounces words. It's like the anti-Tom York. You know?
Maybe that's why. Because it almost sounds overly nasally at times.
Yes.
And maybe that's just because he's enunciating. The vocals come off clear, but they come off a little too clear. Sometimes the best songs are like when you don't know what the fuck someone's saying and you're just going alongside of it, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be singing a song you don't know the lyrics to, but you're like, yeah, that sounded fucking powerful.
I think the guitar lines in this song
Yeah.
are good too.
Yeah.
Like the tone itself, I mean, it's like a slight distortion, but the guitar mimics the vocal line kind of in the background.
And that's true throughout. No, I love the instrumentals. Like, I'm down with the instrumentals on this record. I guess some of the song structures felt really nice and like I could get behind the whole thing, but most of the time it was just vocal delivery that was bothering me. And it felt like putting an A+ instrumental with like a C- vocal delivery.
Yeah.
It just kind of like weighs the rest of the song down a little bit to me. Lyrics are the most important part of the song.
Well, for this band, it's the most important part of the song.
The song structures, while they're present, like, you know, you get your verse, your bridge, your chorus, but it kind of just felt like spoken word over like that structure.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, I think the structure of this song is kind of unorthodox, actually.
Okay.
This song doesn't really have a verse or a chorus.
Well, yeah, that's true for this song. But there are other songs throughout that like have like a bridge.
This one kind of starts with a chorus-like feature that repeats a few times, and then that last verse where you get the stuff about the transportation and the party is like one long verse, and then it just kind of ends after that. I don't know. I always found that kind of interesting.
I have a comment about that, but I'll mention it later.
Okay, we can move on to the next song if you'd like to.
Lightness.
Track 2, Lightness.
Not a huge fan of this one.
I think this is the weakest track on the record.
It's because, to me, this is where I noticed the nasally vocals the most, and the vocal delivery was it almost felt a little off timing a little bit at times too. I can't nail it down specifically, but I remember feeling like he should have cut that line short.
Like instead of holding out the note?
Yeah, or like you're kind of just dragging on too many lyrics in like a small amount of time.
I think this is the weakest one lyrically as well. Conceptually, it's not as interesting. Although there's some lines in here I like. But I've always found this to be a really weird track number 2 following the new year. It's completely minimal. You're just getting this like modular bass. It doesn't sound like a real bass guitar playing. It's like a computer bass with some drums and like this weird feedback loop in the background. It's kind of like a screeching of an amp or something like that. Like
There's
people rubbing their fingers on a wine glass.
And there's almost like a bird call. I don't know if you caught that. It sounded like a...
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's a weird, dissonant, atmospheric background. I do like some of the lines on this one. Although, like, the track begins with the lyrics, I'm sneaking glances at, like, the hole in your dress or something. And that always used to, like, give me creeper vibes back in the day. I don't know what the context is, if it's, like, a person he's in a relationship with or not.
I don't know, this song's kind of corny.
Tell me why. Go for it.
He's like, Ivory Lines lead. Ooh, uh-oh. It kind of is...
It's the millennial whoop, dude.
Yeah, it kind of... Yeah. And here's the other thing. I'm not in this music mood right now. Like, throughout my daily life. This type of sound. We're going back through, like, the Beatles discography. I've been playing still a lot of Half Moon Run, and I've been playing like rap and stuff. I'd have to like be in like an emo mood to like listen to this. And I'm not saying like my opinion won't change on this later down the road. And maybe like if I listen to more of their discography, I might appreciate this more. But yeah, like this ooh oh, it feels kind of corny to me. I don't know. This kind of takes like a more of like a chill route of melancholy that I'm not like. I like it, but it has to be dressed up. I need more reverb, ambience, more experimentation with instrumental. I feel like if he had more vocal effects, you know, like if there was a way to put more harmonies in certain songs, like some of these songs, and this is a comment I wanted to make, I told you I mentioned earlier, but kind of feel like demos. And I mean,
so?
Yeah.
I think this record's like pristine sounding.
I don't mean production on this record is great. That's one of my pros. But the songs themselves feel like they're an idea that hasn't been fully fleshed out yet at times. I don't know. It just...
Lightness is kind of an example of that.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And I guess I want to hear more of a... I don't know. A song needs to have a certain characteristic to make it stand out from the rest, especially if like you have an album that is instrumentally pretty much straight throughout, like almost the exact same. And there are like 2 or 3 tracks, you know, maybe 4 that are like kind of unique, and they don't fit like that cookie cutter mold of what the album goes for. But to me, it just feels like certain songs just need dressed up more. that makes them sound more like demos to me. And I mean that respectfully. I'm not saying like the idea is bad, but sometimes I can get down to some corny shit, but you gotta sell me. You gotta make me feel like I'm a part of it. And I guess maybe some like the lyrics are not really relatable at times because this seems like very personal, very much like Gibbard's record. Like his lyrics are supposed to be symbolic of something that he's going through. Do you disagree with me here?
Very much so, yes.
Because to me, I don't feel connected to the singer in any way. I feel like totally abandoned in his ideas of like what's going on.
And I get that, definitely. My take on the relatable aspect of it, lyrically, the songs are super vague to be relatable, with like some particular details placed within. The line, "Oh, instincts are misleading. You shouldn't think what you're feeling." I think like a lot of people could probably relate to something like that. Like your heart tells you one thing, but like your mind is telling you another.
You can be lusting after someone but not want to be in a relationship with them or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is true. I mean, I understand that.
The lines about like the fish on this song, I can't quote it directly.
The fish.
Your heart is the river.
Your brain is the dam and I'm the fish who can't reach the core. Yeah. Your heart is a river that flows through your chest, through every organ.
It is longing for somebody that may not like want you or something like that. But you're not going to relate. Context here. Me and you, long-term relationship guys.
Yeah.
I'm married. You're going to be engaged in the next year. It's harder in that mind state to kind of relate to this record.
Yeah. You know, when we were dating in our younger years, like right out of high school and stuff, I definitely I remember I still get those feelings to this day sometimes where, you know, I only get to see this woman on the weekends sometimes and my week sucks and Saturday is the best day ever. While I can text you and all that stuff, it's not the same as having you in my passenger seat or, yeah, I know that's a song, but I miss my girlfriend all the time. But yeah, this ain't doing it for me. I understand what it's trying to do. This is before me. It's the same era. Like, I would feel this way, but I didn't ride this musical wave. Times had changed musically after, you know, this came out and stuff. The sound of music, technology that's used in music changed. The standards, the status quo of like certain genres had changed. The song would have hit me if I would have grown up in high school, if I would have graduated in like 01, you know what I mean? Or like if I would have graduated in 05. I graduated in like 2017, right? 2016.
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember, dude. 2016, 2017. So, I mean, I respect it. I'm not like trying to shit on it and I understand where it comes from. It doesn't hit me like that. Like, this is very vanilla for me, even by my standards that I had in high school. Like, this would have been good for me when I was 12. And I mean that respectfully. Like,
it's a deep burn.
I was always a little bit ahead of the curve. I'm not trying to sound like fucking goated or light a fire under my ass, but like, I was a little bit more interested in music and film than my peers. You know, I was an art kid. Fucking sappy, gushy, symbolic bullshit was my fucking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This would have been something that was good for me at those times. It sucks. Like, I can only come through it at the lens of a 22-year-old trying to get married in the next few years. Like, I've found my love. I'm not super pessimistic or like confused about the world as I used to be. So it's like frustrating. I want to like it and I understand why it is loved, but I'm not there. I'm not in that sweet spot.
And you know what?
That's all right.
That's all right, man.
I'm ranting, God damn it.
We can move on to title and registration, track 3. Honestly, track highlight for me. I love this song.
Yeah, it's not too shabby. I'm pretty neutral about this one as well, and I'll tell you why. And as we move through the rest of the track list, I'll be like, no, this is good shit right here.
I already know what songs you're gonna like, honestly. Yeah. I will say I think this record is split into 2 very specific halves. The first half up till about track 5 is probably like the more poppy and like upbeat songs, and then the last half is where most of the dramatic stuff is. I don't know if that hurts the record or helps it.
I like this song. I can appreciate it.
I think it's got a great guitar melody.
I do too.
I love the riff on this one. There's something about this, and I'm not sure if I'm off base here when I say it. It's got an oriental flavor to like the way it's
You can't say that.
It's the way the guitar's plucked. It's a really simple.
Yeah.
The whole track is simple, really. I mean, it's acoustic guitar, bass, drums.
That's something I actually like about this track. The acoustic guitar feels really full, very full, like rich in tone. I really like that. And I mean, the whole looking for your, I mean, the track's called Title and Registration, but he mentions lyrically like looking for a document.
Stumbling upon some thing that brings back memories, of course, from a relationship.
Yeah.
Every song's about a relationship.
I get that. I mean, there are times where even I will look through like my desk drawer and be like, holy shit. Like, I remember when Elizabeth got me this, like, I'm like, dude, she was still like living on campus and stuff during this time. And it was awful. Like, that was the worst. This album would have hit during that era too. Driving 45 minutes to an hour in like Cincinnati traffic just to see my girlfriend for an hour and a half. And then I'd flunk out of college because of it. Like, fuck that shit. That shit was awful.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, question me.
Do you use your glove compartment in your car to store gloves?
No. Who the fuck does? Well, my grandma does that.
I do that.
You do that?
I have a pair of gloves in my glove box. Yes, for the winter.
I don't.
Hey, we're delivery drivers for Domino's.
I suffer. I wash my hands too much to wear gloves. I'm OCD about my hand washing.
Can't use your phone if you have gloves on either.
Can't jerk off if you have gloves on either.
They're not attached to your hands. There's not cement in the gloves.
I don't like wearing gloves. They give me anxiety.
I don't really like wearing them either, but dude, on a cold fucking day.
I just got chills thinking about wearing gloves.
I like how he phrases the glove compartment isn't accurately named and everybody knows it. Does everybody? Does everybody think about that?
That putting gloves in a glove compartment?
Why is it called the glove compartment?
I guess because you put gloves in there.
Well, I do. And
I don't.
And your grandma does.
I don't.
We're the two people in this universe that uses the glove compartment accurately.
Might be. I have like owner's manual and napkins, loose documentation.
Do you put your title and registration in your glove box?
Yeah, and I also have like my registration from like years ago.
This is the only song on the record that uses electronic percussion. And it's a very old school sounding cymbal and snare. It's that snare that sounds like somebody stepping in the snow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that kind of.
This is kind of one of those tracks, and I'm going to mention this later, but it kind of sounds like 21 Pilots in a way.
I would not be surprised if they were influenced by Death Cab.
I can see that. Expo 86. Actually, I really like the song.
This is one of the ones I previewed for you.
Yeah, I think,
after the last podcast. Yeah, I love this song, man.
It's got like a catchy tone, like catchy beat. It feels like...
it's really bouncy.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally just did that. I'm like dancing around in my chair over here trying to illustrate how I feel.
I absolutely love the riff on this song.
It's great.
And it's just an E chord.
Really?
It's all notes stemming from the E chord. I played it on the guitar a little bit before we started recording. I vaguely know how to play it. The guitar tone is really nice.
Very nice.
Do you like the lyrics or like the melody or anything on the song?
Actually, like during the bridge of the song, he actually changes up his tone, which was like, I literally wrote down, he changes it up. Like, he did it.
Yeah.
He did the thing. The first 3 tracks, I have a really hard time getting through just because I feel like there's little to no variation vocally. And not to mention, like, the production, everything's really crystal clear and, like, pretty much on the same level. It feels like everything comes across at, like, a nice even tone. Nothing feels too far away or, like, too close. That goes with his vocals matched up with the instrumentals. And that monotoneness, it comes across a little too clear. And I mentioned... Or I wish, like, he sounded, like, if they could have put an effect, like, maybe he sounds a little far away or, like, kind of drowns out a little bit. And I know, like, it's their style, and, like, I don't want to critique their style, but I'm only getting what I'm getting, and it kind of just feels repetitive. But dude, he like fucking changes it up a little bit, you know. Let me find it real quick. It's
a little more aggressive on that last chorus.
I'm not sure. It's strange. Yeah, he like actually leads you into something else.
We're all bit.
Yeah,
you know.
Yes, perfect.
I'm not gonna try and. I guess I just did.
Yes, ain't it strange? They're all basically the same, and so I don't ask names anymore. He's like pushing you forward into like the next verse, and I'm like, that's what I needed earlier. I needed like something to like, I don't know. Songs have highs and lows. Songs have, I mean, that's what it is.
Dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, you have parts where you may not be, this is literally what TikTok is. You hear the best part of a song when it's on there. When someone uses TikTok and they want to dance to a fucking song, they use like the most catchy part of the song that everyone loves, right? The fucking chorus or like a hook. You got to like lead up into that, right? Perfect example is the song Tiny by Half Moon Run. Fucking love that song. It's like the same verses repeated over and over again until like the end of the song. But the end of the song is like this climactic, beautiful, like wailing Neil Young type of song.
Yes.
I love that shit. It's like one of my favorite tracks that came out this year. It's like in my top 10 of my Spotify Wrapped and stuff. Fucking love that track. These first 3 tracks didn't do any of that shit. To me, at least. Like, it just didn't feel like you were going anywhere. This track actually had some variation to me. I'm being very hypercritical, but
no, it's okay.
I quite literally didn't really enjoy the first 3 tracks that much. I mean, Title Registration isn't bad. It's better than Delightness, and I think it's better than The New Year. But Expo 86 like finally got me like, okay, I'm on board now.
I think this song does the interesting thing where the first time it gets loud, you're only hearing part of the chorus. Mm-hmm. This is a thing I really like in songwriting, where you preview the chorus, and then the second time it comes around, you get the full thing. Mm-hmm. It does get pretty loud. The guitar gets crunchy. Everybody's stepping on their fucking distortion pedal at that exact moment. It's great. I fucking love it. Phonetically, I like the way...
What a word.
The way he uses the syllables. I love the rhythm of the words. He's talking about... He's been in so many failed relationships that at this point, he's like self-sabotaging.
You repeat the cycle.
Talking about the woman saying she has like a smoking gun in her hand. Like, he wants it to fail, but he wants to pass the blame onto the other person. Kind of like a toxic situation.
Yeah. I definitely know people like that.
Piss break. Let's move on to track 5. The Sound is Settling. How do you feel about this one?
7.5 beer, Jesus. I mean, the song's entertaining, and it kind of ties back into like the ooh-oh. Kind of ties back into that.
I think it's done better on this one, though.
Yeah, I can appreciate it. The song's almost a little bit of like, kind of has like a parody feel. Remember this song by Half Moon Run, I Don't Give Fucks Giving? Or I Don't Celebrate Fucks Giving?
Yeah.
Kind of feels like one of those songs. This is the sound of settling. I'm like, oh, I get it. That's entertaining.
This is kind of like a de facto single.
Really?
I would say it's the catchiest and most straightforward song on the album.
Yeah, it's like fairly short too. I think it's only like 2 minutes long. It like doesn't overstay its welcome. Like it gets across the point it was trying to get across.
Something about the song gives me Weezer energy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Really concise, just pop songwriting.
I can hear this shit on the radio for sure.
I don't know if it was the lead single, but it might have been the most popular song, like radio-wise, when it came out. For me, this was always kind of a skip for me back in the day. Yeah, I think I can appreciate for what it is now, but there's like not a whole lot to say about it.
No, it's like very short.
Like the narrator of the song, like it's called The Sound is Settling, so like maybe they like settled down with somebody, but there's lyrics about like what could have been, like maybe they're in this long-term relationship and they're thinking about somebody else.
And that's a valid feeling. Me and Elizabeth have talked about this where like, I mean, like we both discussed, like, we know I've thought about like what it would be like to not date you or like what it would be like to date somebody else. And it's like asking like that, what could have been mentality. I don't know. Like, I can't imagine being with anybody else. Like, I don't know, you deal with me well and I deal with you well.
Going back to like the vagueness of this record, it is very simple. But I think, I don't know, it works.
It's a 2-minute song.
It's a 2-minute song. And that's perfectly fine.
Can we talk about the next track?
Yes.
I like this track a lot, actually.
Moving into my favorite part of the record.
Okay. Yeah.
The last half of the record is by far way better than the first, I think.
I agree.
Tiny Vessels.
I think I really like this song because I think it kind of ties in the cleaner parts and the heavier distortion parts. It kind of like mends them together well. And I know we kind of like talked about this a long time ago on like Siamese Dream, where like some of the songs were really heavy and then some of the songs were really melancholic. The song kind of feels like that, like mixed together.
Of the two.
Yeah, and I enjoy that.
Something about the guitar part during the verses reminds me of like an American football song, but slowed down.
Yeah.
with like not as many hammer-ons and pull-offs and like weird, guitar things. Yeah, this is a good one. This actually starts my favorite 3-track run of any, this is going to sound strong, of any record.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I think this is a great 3-track
comment.
run. The way it's produced, like the echoey kind of aesthetic that it has, works really well with the song. Now, I will say, I think when this record gets loud, the mixing kind of fails a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of gets blown out to where like there's not as many details.
Yeah, that's a good comment.
And Expo 86 kind of falls to the same thing.
I can understand that. I guess like this song, Tiny Vessels, it even almost sounds like a 21 Pilots song. But to me, this did sound like a 21 Pilots song the most out of all the songs in the record.
But like indie rock version.
Yeah. And I mean, we both like 21 Pilots, and we've talked about it before, but I would not be surprised if they were influenced by them, because
I think they definitely are.
The lead singer in 21 Pilots can definitely be very monotone at time. I mean, it's almost like a rap at times, the way he approaches vocals, and then like also he can wail and all that bullshit. But I like this track, and I appreciate it more when it leads into Transatlanticism, because I feel like it kind of gives you like a nice break. I don't know. A lot of the songs so far have felt like more poppy, rocky, and I don't want to like skip over this track, but I appreciate the latter half of the record much more because I get to see. I mean, and we've talked about this before too, but like albums are weird when you try to listen to them straight through. It's like setting up a story. It's like setting up a movie. The first 30 minutes of a film might not be that great, but like you appreciate where the characters ended up at the end because you know where they came from. Well, it's the same thing with this record. It's like, okay, now I understand. And like not every song on a record's got to be like the shit. I mean, there are records that every song quite literally is the shit and every song is fantastic. You know, there's 10 out of 10 records for sure, but I like the heaviness and the cleanness of this song. I think thematically, I think it's probably like one of the most complex ideas because it's from the perspective of someone that initiates a breakup rather than the one receiving the breakup. Like it's like a heartbroken song, completely relatable. There's not many songs out there about like, you're the one that left, you know, you should be the happy one.
The narrator feels kind of guilty about this. What the fuck do you call it?
Like the breakup?
Yeah, sure. There was a word I was thinking of that I can't think of. Honestly, I thought that the song is so dramatic, but the lyrics don't live up to the dramaticism of the song itself. The whole mantra of the song is, she is beautiful, but she doesn't mean a thing to me. And that kind of sums up everything that's said here.
Yeah. And I guess like it almost is, it kind of can tie back into like the sound of settling too. This song kind of ties into that whole like, you know, you're beautiful, but I don't even like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sounded all gruffy right there. I like the metaphor. The Tiny Vessels thing is all about bruising. It's kind of talking about like him letting this woman down is kind of like the pain of love is kind of like a bruise. It might stick with you for a while, but it's going to go away eventually.
I felt that. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have, but yeah. Fucking love is weird, dude. Why can't we just be robots?
Look at you.
We will be eventually.
I kind of predicted that you would go on a tangent about love.
Stop doing this to me. Let's just talk about Kung Fu Panda.
I knew this record would do this to you. I will say this song ends with a little drum outro, and then the very last snare hit that you hear perfectly transitions into the next song because the snare hits, you get like this echo effect, and it kind of
builds that ambience that leads into Transatlanticism.
It gels into this weird. It sounds like a train starting to leave the station.
It's like a warbly underwater type of echoey. Oh, it kind of reminds me of Pyramid Song. It kind of feels like it's a little bit underwater.
Ooh, that's a good reference right there.
Yeah, great song. Listen to it, please. But yeah, Transatlanticism, beautiful fucking song. It's like almost 8 minutes long.
It's like the centerpiece of the record.
Quite literally. It's the titular track. It lies right in the middle of the album. I mean, it's 11. It's an odd number, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I love this track. And
This is great.
You didn't show me this one. You showed me Passenger Seat, but
I didn't show you this one for a reason. I wanted you to listen to it on your own.
yeah, it's a beautiful track.
8 minutes long.
Yeah, but it doesn't really feel like that.
It feels like 4 minutes.
Yeah. And maybe it's because just the instrumental parts are just so long.
It does not drag.
It's not like a chore to get through. Yeah.
No.
But the song thematically is just talking about distant relationship, feeling like there's an ocean between people.
He's quite literally explaining the formation of land, water forming to make islands. It's an interesting take lyrically.
And like after their first few verses, it's just the same thing repeated. I need you so much closer over and over, and then so come on.
The simplicity like works in its favor.
The guitar riff, oh dude, it's good shit.
You get this mildly distorted chord that's rung out. It's only like 4 notes maybe. This little guitar riff.
It's so good, dude.
It's barely increasing in intensity, very slowly.
Kind of feels like This Will Destroy You.
Yes. It's
such a great song.
It's a post-rock song almost.
Yeah.
God, it gets so epic.
And this is where I'm like, what the fuck? How couldn't you have done this earlier? Like, give me some oomph. Give me some oomph earlier. And I'm like, but I appreciate this track so much. Dude, it's so good. I'm definitely catching my buzz right now, but
I caught my buzz long ago, if you can't tell.
Well, you can't fucking speak, but
this beer, 7.5%.
I'm going back to High Life after this. I'm almost done with mine.
So am I. It's hitting me hard.
Yeah, the guitar riff almost sounds like this hopeful cry. Music is weird. God, it's so hard to put words to.
Like how it evokes emotion out of you.
It does such a good job. Like some sort of melancholic optimism.
That's a good way to put it.
It's like, the weekend's coming. Like you're almost there. It's hump day, bro. It's Wednesday kind of thing. But yeah, there's like harmonies actually in this track, which I'm like, hey, harmonies, let's go. This song drones on and I'm like, hey, I'll fucking take the fucking droning. Like, give me the post-rock feel.
Are you more forgiving of the vocal style on this one?
Yes, because it feels like it fits the instrumental more to me.
Yeah,
and
they should do more stuff like this.
I respect this more because his vocal style is meant for this. It's like you use what you got. Shit works in certain mediums. His vocals are meant for shit like this. And I think this album to me would excel more if I got more distant ambient feel. And I mean, obviously, we get it with Passenger Seat and all that bullshit, but I just mean like, I wish the record was more focused. I mean, this is the title track. So if this is the title track, like I want to feel like the rest of the album is supposed to be like this. So give me more of this. Give me more droning, post-rock, dissonant feel.
I think from a structural standpoint, I like how the song, it blows through all the verses in the first couple minutes, and then it gives you that part where it starts building. The I need you so much closer mantra is repeated, and it sounds like it's going to hit the climax of the song then, but then it deviates for a minute or two, and then hops back into
it probably does that for like
part.
a few minutes, like 2 minutes maybe.
And it's just dwelling on the most simple drum beat you ever heard, the most simple piano progression, but it sounds like the biggest thing ever. It just sounds very dramatic.
It is like that Moneyball feel.
Yes. I think I might have said similar words when I described that movie. But when it hits that part where they say, so come on, with the group vocals, it's not that loud. It's not that like chaotic. But
it feels epic.
Yeah, it feels earned.
Yeah. That's definitely like how Moneyball was structured. It's like really simple but executed well in a way where you're finding like this beauty and simplicity, and it feels like the most important shit you've ever seen.
This song hits that final big chord, and then it transitions pretty effortlessly into the next track. You get that long, droning distortion into like the organ starts Passenger Seat.
This song's like kind of like a ballad, like a piano ballad.
I showed you this song.
This is where we had our podcast inception moment. When you showed me this, I said, we're going to talk about this. You'd be like, I showed you this. This is the song I showed you on the night after our last podcast. Well, and then we're going to talk about it. And then I'm going to say this. And then I'm going to say this.
Yeah. We probably forget all the things that we said.
Well, I mentioned that it reminded me of the song Sea of Teeth by Sparkle Horse. Great track. Yeah, you showed me the song, and I kind of got like a little bit of a taste of what I was getting. But I thought like I would get more of this when I listened to the record.
Maybe I misled you.
Well, I misled you. Remember when I showed you Favorite Boy for Half Moon Run? And the rest of the album wasn't like all like that.
Except I feel way more strongly about this one than you did about that one. I have a question for you, actually.
Bro. Go ahead.
When I played this song, we were pretty drunk.
Yeah.
I was literally sitting there playing the air piano and mouthing all the words, and you said, I feel like I just gotta look into your psyche.
I did say that, didn't I?
I'd kind of like to know what you meant by that. Unless you got a glimpse into 16-year-old Alex Getter.
I think I did, and I think that's what I meant. I remember in that moment thinking, oh my God, this is what adolescence Getter was.
Yes.
I remember that. Yeah, you're bringing it back to me now. I remember now.
I think I got emotional hearing this song.
You were like singing this song, and I was just listening to you sing this fucking song. And I was like, I've known you. When did I started working there in 2017. I started working in the March of 2017. So how old were you in 2017? 4 years ago, right?
4 years ago.
So you've been 23?
23, 24.
Yeah, I got a little bit of an insight. When I met you, you're where I'm at. You know what I mean?
I wasn't married. I was renting a shitty house.
I guess, I don't know. I never got to know you growing up. I think it's always funny when I meet your friends, like Logan, for example, or Nathan. I always am like, they've known you a lot longer than I have. And they like push your buttons or like talk shit on you. And I'm not like that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really like talk shit on you. Like, we didn't grow up like childhood friends or anything.
Hey, you can talk shit on me.
Well, I mean,
Awesome.
I can, but I don't know. I don't really find a reason to. I'm not like really into that.
I might be a shy and quiet person.
You can be an angsty little fuck. I know how you
Yeah, I can be.
I know how I've heard stories of you on vacation. I know how you are when you let go. I don't know. I just got like a little insight of like, I'm like, oh, and this is tying back into like, this is what you grew up on adolescence wise, like formative year stuff. I'm like, and it makes sense to me now too, because when I heard this record, I was also thinking like, this is Getter's guitar style.
Dramatic and overblown.
Yeah. Or just, it feels, when you've showed me songs that you've made on the loop pedal and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my God, I understand. Putting the puzzle pieces together where I can kind of like get a little bit more of an insight on you. You're less direct than I am. I'll just fucking like spill my heart out to you in the fucking car, being like, going on and on. You're more like,
I have trouble doing that.
I get you like in a slow drip. I fucking open up the IV bag when I fucking talk. So I understand, or at least I think I do, or like I'm getting a little bit of a look at for example, you like really do up your fucking Instagram.
I guess.
Where like you got to post some nature and a comment like that's super fucking vague. And I'm like, yeah this is Getter. This like speaks Getter to me.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting imagery on this track of like the whole scene is laid out like he's riding in a car with his significant other, I would assume, and like they're discovering the world for the first time, or at least he's pulling the veil back on like things that would seem so mundane, and where you're finding like these bliss and simplicity. And I mean, I'm that way. I mean, I can't tell you how many times like I get home from work real late at night and I'm like, I've had a shit day. It's a clear night out and I look up at the stars and I'm like, I'm just a fucking idiot on this rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I got to know you a little bit more indirectly.
That was the best answer I could ask for.
You guys ought to let me rant.
I'll never stop you from ranting.
It's bad.
Yeah, this song wrecks me. And I remember when I showed you this track, we were talking and you said, I can't wait till the drums come in. And I was like, they don't. But you didn't know like the context of the record. Like, this is the cool off from the big epic fucking, piano ballad. This song evokes so much drama out of the most simple little piano phrasing. When I hear the lyrics to this track, I feel like I'm reading out of somebody's journal. It's not the most poetic stuff, but it just evokes a lot of emotion out of me.
I mean, this song does that for me too. I mean, I don't hold it as near and dear as you do, but when I hear this song, I mean,
I've got 8 years of fucking nostalgia attached to this song.
I mean, I do appreciate it because, I mean, it's the winter time right now. The air is dry and cold and less fragrant. And I just feel like when I heard this song, I was immediately blasted into like that emotional state. I mean, even like in the middle of work. When you drive and listen to this song, it like feels fucking like theme song. You know what I mean? It feels like part of the plot. Like it feels like character development. You know what I mean? I appreciate the way it conveys like a relationship and like just being in a car together. And I mean, I know it might feel like it might be for somebody younger, but I mean, like I still have like childlike moments of like wonder and optimism or discovery, and I can understand that. I feel that with my girlfriend every so often, where it feels like it may not feel like a big moment to remember, but when it happens, it feels like I immediately step back and I'm like, oh, this is one of those moments. Can't tell you how many times we've drove home from date night and it feels like that was a good time.
You feel like you're at the center of the universe.
Yeah, like time is slowed down around you. I guess just this song in general helps convey that feeling of just reflection with a partner in like these most mundane, simple of times. Fuck yeah.
I think it's kind of perfect. Of course, I have a long-standing relationship with the album. I love when it deviates from that little piano line and it goes into some more like major key chords. And he's talking about, when you feel embarrassed, I'll be your pride. When you need directions, I'll be your guide. Also, not the most poetic thing in the world, but when he leaves the song off on it and he like gives that long note, like for all time, the high pitchedness of it, it just feels complete. Like, man. And this is one of those songs that doesn't have the chorus, the verse, or anything. It's just kind of like, it is what it is. It's super cinematic.
Good way to put it. Very cinematic. Super imagery heavy.
It wrecked me when I was 16, and it wrecks me at 28.
Well, that speaks volumes, people.
Piss break.
Death of an interior decorator. I don't really have a lot to say about this song, to be quite honest with you.
I think this is like the sleeper hit of the album.
Damn, what a statement. Okay, tell me why.
Dude, this track's great. For one, it starts off with this very irregular drum beat. You get 3 hi-hat cymbals with a double snare.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Morning Bell by Radiohead, where that song has a triplet snare.
Yeah.
But the guitar riff on this track is one of my favorites on the record.
Really?
I think it feels very extravagant, and it kind of matches the lyrical focus of the song. Like the bass and guitar interplay is really nice on this track. I think it's lyrically great as well.
Okay.
I don't know. Why are you indifferent towards it?
What bothers me is that you just had this 3-track run, and I feel like I'm right back to track 1, and that bothers me a lot.
I agree.
I'm back to fucking Squidward singing on, you know what I mean? And
no, I'm with you, actually. My opinion has always been that the sequencing of this record is kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Passenger Seat feels like the last track.
Yeah.
When that ends and you go back into like
this up-tempo shit, yeah.
Yeah, it feels kind of wrong. But if you were to do that,
the fucking first 7 tracks would suck if you were...
You can play around with the sequencing, but if you were to do that, where would A Lack of Color end up?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that song, so...
You have 2 perfect ending tracks on the record.
I just get frustrated. I mean, it's the same shit I said earlier. I mean, I know that the track itself is supposed to be like a retelling of a movie.
I didn't know that till today.
And I have no idea what this movie is, but...
It's a Woody Allen movie called Interiors. The particulars of the story are the exact same. A woman with 3 children. She's married. Her husband goes off and cheats on her. and then she kills herself Birdman style in the sea.
Jesus Christ.
I think structurally the song is pretty cool as well. You get your verse and then your chorus, and then your bridge is kind of like the second verse, where like you don't get the verse ever again. I just found it kind of interesting that it was structured that way. But I'm going to bring back a reference that you said earlier in the podcast, talking about your infatuation with the Beatles right now. The vocal melody on this track is super Paul McCartney.
Yeah, that's a good point. Structurally, it's kind of like a Beatles song as well, where it's like, I don't know, the Beatles play a lot on like storytelling or heavy imagery. I'm trying to think of something off like maybe Abbey Road. Like there's certain spots in the melody, the words, dude, are leaving the brain. I cannot right now.
I'm having a hard time tonight too, if you can't tell.
Jesus. Goddamn Christmas ale. I mean, the Beatles, the way they structure their songs, it kind of feels like a storytelling, and maybe it's something that's not necessarily true. I mean, this song takes that in a way where it's quite literally based off a movie. I mean, I can appreciate that.
I think it's interesting because this is the only song on the record that kind of takes the female's perspective.
That's also true. This album has a lot to do with like the painful side of love, which I can appreciate. I mean, it's hard to write a song in the perspective and other than somebody than yourself. And I guess probably the film or the retelling of it probably is a good catalyst to like illustrate that. I don't know. It's weird. It might be something that I would appreciate if I just single the track out. Mm-hmm. But in the context of the record coming off of like this big epic,
yes,
it's hard to 15 to 20 minutes of like this epic run. And then, you know, there are certain tracks that you don't appreciate album wise if they're not isolated, which is true. I mean, it's hard. Maybe I need to start like taking breaks when I listen to a record of like get up for like 10 minutes and like get a different train of thought and then come back to songs. When I listen to a record all the way through in one sitting, if it's not catching me right off the bat, I have a hard time. I'll start checking out. It's like the same thing I do with schoolwork. I'll work for 25 minutes and take a break for 5 minutes.
I mean, it's not like it's not one of my track highlights, but I think it is like the underrated song on the record. It's not one that's pulled out of people's favorites, like among the fan base.
We Look Like Giants. I like this song the first few times I heard it, and I kind of like started to develop some parts, you know, of my opinion with this song. Kind of feels, how do I put this? It kind of feels like this is not going to sound right, but it kind of feels like My Chemical Romance in a way. At least thematically, it feels like weird to talk about this on this record.
It's a nostalgic romp through like your first experiences with like hooking up and stuff. It's kind of awkward.
It's super awkward to listen to.
I'm glad you keep bringing it back to My Chemical Romance, because when I went into this podcast, I was actually going to say this album is like the slow indie rock version of like the Black Parade or something.
Yeah.
It can kind of be seen in some parts. I used to hate this song.
Really?
This was the black sheep of the record for me for a long time. I've come around to it over time. I think it's the most epic. It's not the most epic. It's not as epic as Transatlanticism. It might be the second most epic song. The intro. You get those little singular piano notes. Dun, 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 dun. And you have like the bass following it.
That's true.
It's
pretty nice.
When the band comes in.
Something that takes me out of it. God damn that black night. Like just feeling like, it's super frustrating. Like the vocals are hit or miss. I mean, I like the instrumental. Like the instrumental's great. Also like these distorted synthy sounds littered throughout that I don't think are necessarily like coming from a guitar, but more like maybe like a synthesizer in a way, which I mean, I like. It's something I didn't really notice on other tracks, but like the vocal delivery kind of but I mean, the vocals are nice because they start layering them up a little bit throughout the song, which again is another key point where I'm trying to say like, do this more. I think I would like the track, I would like, yes, the track and the album more. Just dress up the vocals a little bit more. Just dress them up. I mean, you've done it. You've shown me that you can do it.
I do think they suffer from like not overdubbing with harmonies more often. This is true on other Death Cab albums. It's always been gibbered straight up. And your mileage may vary. Although I'll say, I think he's a very unique vocalist. Name one other person that sounds just like him.
This is also true, yeah.
Same thing with like a Modest Mouse or a Radiohead. Like, name another vocalist that sounds like either of those people.
Or at least other people start to try to imitate those sounds.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's kind of unfair. I can understand, like, that can be unfair to be like, why don't they sound like this? They're their own band and their own sound and their own unique flavor on things. But I guess to me, I expect more. Granted, this is 2003. Things are experimental and all that bullshit. But I mean, this is a hard time in music to like start stepping out of the box more. I mean, stuff that is more experimental comes later. I'm trying to think of like another band at this time that would be maybe like The National would be another band.
They weren't even there yet.
They probably didn't come around to like 05, 06, 07, somewhere in that era.
They were around at this time.
But they didn't hit it.
They weren't good yet. Their debut sucks.
Really?
Yes. Their first record was like, or their first great record was like 05. And then, they got better as time went on.
Yeah, it's weird trying to tackle this from my perspective, to be quite honest with you.
I can't think of a whole lot of other indie bands that were hitting it mainstream at the time. Modest Mouse hadn't hit it mainstream yet.
They didn't hit till like 05?
Yeah. They were a little bit before that time.
Maybe they're like laying the foundation.
Yeah. Well,
I can appreciate that now. When I think of the Beatles, what makes the Beatles so great is that they laid the foundation for a lot of other genres. So, I mean, okay.
I will critique this song because it has the most awkward lyric on the record, where he's talking about hooking up with a girl, and he says, like, we learned how our bodies work.
That's super cringe.
Super cringe. That line has never sat right with me. When I was 16, when I was 20, or when I was 28. You know? But I will say, I love the ending of this song. The production goes kind of lo-fi, and we get this very long, spaced out outro where the drums are hitting hard, and like he's repeating the mantra from the beginning of the song. I think it works.
I mean, it's not a bad song. Just my negatives are still as apparent as they were at the beginning of the album. And I don't like shitting on this album like the whole time, but I have a really hard time getting my brain out of that same thought loop, because I mean it's the same throughout as far as like vocal delivery. And I know that's what's holding me back from appreciating it. And I know I've said it this whole time, but I mean, I think thematically so far, like there have been a lot of good. I mean, you heard me rant about it for the last 30 to 40 minutes on certain shit. I mean, there are certain songs that do it better than others. Again, you've said that like later on that they don't. I mean, they kind of stick true to this formula. I don't know. I guess I just would appreciate the dressing up. I mean, I read other people's reviews, and other people were like, I fucking love this record, 5 out of 5, 5 stars. Like,
this record's beloved.
Yeah. But then I also like read other reviews where like there was like 2 and 3 stars, and they were like, someone was like, if you like melancholic poppy rock, then this is your shit. But other than that, like this shit sucks. And I was like, damn. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one that thinks like certain shit sucks. I'll save the rest of it for like the wrapping up summary. But A Lack of Color, I actually really like this song. We said it earlier, but like this is like kind of like the only semi folksy song. And I really like the song. It's a nice outro. The acoustic is like nice and clean and rich. I mean, give me more. Like, give me more. Give me some more of this. Lean less heavy on the rock side of things. And like maybe some of the songs I would appreciate it more if they were more acoustic oriented, folksy oriented. I mean, you can do same songs. You can play the same notes on an acoustic guitar. So maybe I would have appreciated some of the other songs, but I mean, like certain songs like Death of an Interior Decorator or We Looked Like Giants, or even going back to like The New Year and Expo 86. It reminded me so much of Siamese Dream. It was like an in-between. You know what I mean? It felt like an in-between of rock and indie. And I didn't feel like it found its identity anywhere at some spots. You know what I mean? It felt like it didn't go all in on certain aspects of genre.
I love this song.
I know you do. I can feel it in your eyes.
It's not a track highlight for me, though.
Really?
It's probably like on the higher end. Like if I were to rank the songs from worst to best,
I really like the lyric, this is fact, not fiction, for the first time in years.
Yes.
It's super catchy.
Many emo kids have made that an Instagram,
like
a bio, or like the description
caption
for a picture. I think the guitar riff in this song is very identifiable. This used to be one of my favorite songs by Death Cab, and I think I kind of fell out of favor of it a little bit. Like lines about like every girl and every girly magazine kind of perpetuated that teeny bop aspect of the band, kind of. Now I do like the line, when I see you upside down. It quite literally goes into like science about how like when our eyes, like when we perceive something, our eyes see them upside down.
Stop, you're scaring me.
And then like your brain automatically
flips the image
for you to like, you know,
process,
not be
disoriented,
nauseous all the time.
You're scared, give me anxiety.
I also think that this song has some of the best production on the record. You get these perfect splashes of piano. It's just like hitting these notes at the exact moment that they should be hit.
That's something I didn't comment about. Something that I appreciated throughout the record, since I'm kind of done shitting on it.
Fuck you.
Most of the time, the lyrics laid really nice with the way the notes were being hit. It always felt like his vocal delivery was laying perfectly. Like even like the way the notes are being hit in the tempo, his vocal delivery was laying right on top of that, like to drive home. And I mean, maybe that's part of like that variation to create importance to a specific line. Maybe that's something I missed or didn't appreciate, but that's also true. Like most of the time throughout the record, the way the chords were being played, the way the notes were being hit and lined up, his lyrics were in tempo with the song structure.
Now, I might have complained that the sequencing of this record is all wrong, but the background ambience of this song, it's the exact same as the first song.
It starts the same the new year. I noticed that when it repeated.
It's kind of like when you listen to The Wall by Pink Floyd, they use the same ambience on the last track as they do in the first track. So if you listen to it on a loop, it goes forever.
It's perfect.
Sometimes I think the cycle never ends. You know? Yeah, it's great.
Fuck you. You tied the knot. You pulled it together.
And I'm gonna give this a moment to praise the producer of this record, who's also the guitarist in the band, Chris Walla. He's produced many indie albums. He did Nearer My God, the Foxing record from 2018. One of my favorite records from the 2010s. He's also doing the Pine Grove record that comes out next month.
Oh, shit, I didn't know there was a Pine Grove record coming out.
He's a great producer. He left the band, actually. He left Death Cab a couple years ago to only do producing work. So, like, I think his mark is kind of felt really strongly on Transatlanticism. Mm-hmm. A lot of the transitions between tracks are, like, pretty effortless. And, I don't know, I just felt like, you might disagree, but I feel like this record is a very holistic experience. Even though it can be split into two halves, your upbeat half and then your dramatic half.
I don't disagree with that. I just think I was too worried about my own critiques the whole time to like step back a little bit and kind of think about those things. We said it before, but like opinions are malleable, and there may be a time where I appreciate this record more. Again, it may be like one of those records where I don't appreciate it as much. Like I liked Black Star a lot more than what's the other one?
Station to Station?
God, I mean, I like Black Star a lot more than I liked that record. I mean, I don't return to Station very often, but Black Star, I'm like, yeah, this is the fucking shit, boy.
Yeah, but it's more in tune with your taste.
True.
Black Star is that jazzy kind of like progressive rock, and then Station to Station's very 70s. You know? And this record is very 2000s.
Very much.
It's very sad boy. Most people I know like hold this as like a greatest album of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But you know, they all got into it when we were younger. So
that's also
it's a window of opportunity thing, man. And like I'm not taking any offense to your critiques. Like I totally get it.
I wouldn't like My Chemical Romance the way I do now though, if I wouldn't have listened to it when I was younger. It has like a nostalgia like factor to it.
Do you think from like a sonic perspective this record is like on par with like a Black Parade or anything. Like I feel like that record doesn't have transitions and like, I mean, they're two completely different records, but I'm just curious because that was a formative record for me too.
I feel like this album probably lies in the same caliber of like something like maybe like Three Cheers, where like Three Cheers was like my introduction to like emo. Like I remember vividly that time. I mean, I remember I used to wear fucking all black. I mean, I used to ride in the backseat of my dad's 98 Chevy Silverado that eventually became mine. He bought this album and like we listened to it in the car because he used to listen to like 96 Rock and like they would put I'm Not Okay on 96 Rock. That was like a formative record for me though. And my dad was cool as fuck and got me like the Black Parade. So like Three Cheers laid the foundation for like what I would eventually go on to love. But my dad was never into indie, you know. I mean, he liked Modest Mouse, don't get me wrong, but this shit right here would have been like a no-go. And at the time, technology wasn't as mainstream, so everything that I got to see was at that time was through my father's taste and what he was willing to show us. I didn't have like an iPod or access to the internet all the time or like even a smartphone or yada yada at the time. So like those formative years, like I only got like a little bit, like I got like the tip of the iceberg of like kind of like the alt scene. Like I'm sure this wasn't like a super mainstream record, but it was probably like tossed around through like high schools, like word of mouth.
It was tossed around enough to become platinum.
Really?
Sold a million copies.
But like my dad wasn't into indie, so my introduction to emo rock was because that's what was shown to him. He ended up liking it, and then I got to end up to like My Chemical Romance because of his small interest. He probably just bought the record just because he liked that single. You know, people buy a CD just because they like a single. But he wasn't into indie. Like the only person I would think that would like that shit would have been my uncle. But you know, I didn't get that insight back then. So I mean, I can hold it to that caliber though. I mean, it's probably somewhere in that Modest Mouse range of foundation setting. I know that they move on to more like rhythmic. Again, I commented earlier about like Muse, or they probably move into something that's more Weezer-like or more rock-oriented, more bass groovy type shit.
They went more jammy and more electronic on the three records that came after this.
I mean, that ties in with the same musical footnote of time and all that bullshit. So, I mean, I appreciate the record for what it is, though, and I know you love it. I guess I appreciate it mostly because I can understand the nostalgia, or like I can understand the importance of a record like this for true millennials. Like I was born in the 90s, but I was on the way out. I was a 99 kid. This is what the high schoolers were listening to when I was born. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess, yeah, I appreciate it. The track highlights are like fucking great, but some of
those get lost in some of those other lesser tracks.
Yeah, I mean, they just felt like more vanilla, you know, they're less experimental for like my taste now as an adult. I mean, I appreciate them because they are what I like, but the stuff that is more vanilla, I'm like, eh. But it's just because I have a developed palate as an adult, where you, on the other hand, like you grew up on this shit. Like this is your bread and butter, you know what I mean? This is where you point back to.
Piss break.
Austin, if you had to give a rating to Transatlanticism, what are you feeling?
I'll give it like a 6.5 to 7. Again, track highlights were highlights, and the ones that weren't were not. The only song I strongly dislike, though, is Lightness, but the rest of the tracks just kind of feel like middle of the road.
For me, my heart says a 10, but instincts are misleading. So I'm going to go with a strong 9. Absolutely love this record. I'm so familiar with it, so I'm glad we had this conversation. It's hard for me to talk about a record that I like know like the back of my hand. Hard to comment on the things that I find special about it because I've been listening to it for so long. 12 years, you know, for me. Now, young AP, you have the floor. Tell me the thing we're going to do on the next thing.
Oh man, I'm like torn. There are a few movies I want to do, and I also like wanted to do an album, but
I kind of want you to do an album.
musically,
you can do whatever you want.
Musically, I haven't felt like super inspired to listen to anything special lately, or like nothing has stuck out to me where I'm like, I really want to talk about this. Like I'm in a bit of a dry spell right now when it comes to music. With that said, I'm going to be doing a film, and now this is where I'm going to leave the choice up to you. Okay.
Ooh. Okay.
So there is a break. There is like a break, and it's because I don't know what either direction is fine. I just don't know which one to choose because both of them sound equally as fun. So you have choice A, which would be something more lighthearted, something that I love, that I love, but we could talk about. Choice B, which would be something recent that came out that you haven't seen, that is more serious and more technical and thickened plot and many facets of a film to dissect: music, film, like plot, story.
I already know what it is.
All that shit. You know what that is.
Yeah.
And then C.
I have 3 choices.
You have 3 choices. I know, this is a lot.
Motherfucker, don't do this to me.
So.
Go on.
But this one is a superhero film that would be more fun. It's completely up to you.
So my choices are A, a lighthearted film, B, something more serious and cinematic, or C, a superhero film. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of been on the superhero kick lately.
Yeah.
So I can't tell if I'm sick of it or if I want to dive farther into that direction. I don't know if I can make the decision. I know that B is Dune.
Quite possibly.
Yes. Hey, it's your recommendation. I like the surprise. Just tell me what we're gonna do.
All right, well, we can do Dune then. If you want, since you know it's Dune, let's just do it. Way to really edge me and then fucking deny me my cum.
Can you tell me what my A and C choices would have been?
So C was Spider-Man 1, like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Dude.
Yeah, you wish you would have picked that one, didn't you?
Yes. But I've seen it a million times.
Yeah. And A was Kung Fu Panda 2.
You're about to do a double feature.
I was about to do Kung Fu Panda back to back. And I'll tell you why I kind of put the options in there, is that after Kung Fu Panda 1, I was like, I'll fuck this motherfucker up with Kung Fu Panda 2 right afterwards. But, I mean, it'll come later. I want to take a break. Part of me wanted to do Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is because, obviously, we just watched the new Spider-Man, and I want to go back and, like, revisit that because I was so young when I did watch it. But the reason I really want to watch Dune is because I know you didn't watch it when it was out. And I'm in the middle of reading it right now. My read through the novel will be done when I get back from vacation. I'm actually trying to read it before I leave for vacation. I'm halfway through the book right now. I picked it back up after taking a break for, I was in school and I kind of had lost my habit of reading it. I want to finish the book. This was my favorite film I watched all year long. I know I talked to you about it a little bit, but I know you have no idea what the fuck it's about. I mean, I know you know what it's about, but
kinda.
You need to like experience the film for what it is. Denis Villeneuve, I can finally say his name correctly now that I've heard it from someone else. I don't know if I'll bring anything new to the conversation that's already been discussed online, but it quite literally is one of the most masterful films I have ever seen. It's a long fucking movie. There's a lot to dissect.
Out of all the 3 choices, I think I'm glad we landed on this one. Although I would have had a lot of fun with Spider-Man.
I think I'm still going to watch Spider-Man. I bought it on Vudu. They were like on sale. I bought 1 and 2.
I fucking love those movies.
They're fucking great. I was a lot younger when they came out though, so like I didn't understand why the fuck Norman Osborn was so fucking whacked out of his mind.
I'm ready for this, man. I knew I needed to watch this movie. How can I watch this movie?
It's out on Vudu now, and I think it releases on Blu-ray like the beginning of the year and stuff, but you can like rent it now on Vudu. If you want to have it on Vudu, it's definitely like worth the buy.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy it and probably like watch it on the plane and stuff on the way back home after I read the book and stuff. I'm expecting the second novel in the series for Christmas, and time will tell if I'll get through them both. Yeah,
this is the same director that did
Arrival and Blade Runner 2049
Prisoners?
and Prisoners.
He did Enemy as well, right?
I don't know if I've ever seen that.
It's also got Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
He did Sicario.
Okay, yeah. Great director.
There's a lot. Hans Zimmer does the score. Got our boy Timothée Chalamet. Just watch it, goddammit. It's fucking good, dude.
I can't wait, man. It's something I need to watch, and I think it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'm ready. We'll have plenty of time to digest it. We got 3 weeks. You can watch it more than once. Which, please watch it more than once. Yeah, man. All right. Tell these motherfuckers goodbye.
Adios.